So in a very male-dominated hobby, here's our three ladies of our Red Hat Cub Club. So, you know, after 20-some years of trying to beg Tammy to go flying, it finally took Dana to talk her into it. So sometimes you just need another woman to get them all interested. Thanks, ladies. All right, everybody, it is time to bust into the box. This is a brand new Carbon Cub put out by Horizon Hobbies, made by Hobby Zone. This is my wife's first plane. This is a 1.3, yep, you heard me right, my wife's plane. After all these years, she finally is going to give this a shot. So I guess we've had some type of influence on her, good or bad, but we all did it. So anyway, this is a 1.3 meter Cub. Has lots of cool features to it. This is a bind and fly version, not the ready to fly version. So we are going to be binding in the DX6E by Spectrum. That will be the radio that we are using there. So it is time to bust into this box and get it started. I'll do a quick time lapse and go through a quick unboxing. So some of the stuff, features that really sold her on this at a flying event was the really made to teach herself how to fly realistically, and she took to it very quickly. The auto land feature on this, so it will actually use the GPS to actually land itself within just a couple feet, if you will, where it took off. It has a holding pattern, so the thing will stay within a holding pattern if you want it to while your nerves calm down. It has a geo fence, so you can only fly so far, and then the thing will take control and bring it back. And then it has the safe in it also, so the safe technology in here won't let you get it out of control. So it makes it really easy for beginners. This is almost like a no-fail type of plane, and it is a great choice visual wise, and the Cub is iconic in itself. But let's get into this box and let's get it open. So let's take a quick look at what comes in the kit. I have everything unboxed there. One of the coolest things that I think is in here is these foam Tundra tires. Those are pretty neat. We have a couple different, it looks like possible brackets, maybe for landing gear here, I guess, if you wanted to sit higher or lower or whatever. So we'll see what that is in the manual, because I really don't know. We have a bunch of hardware here for wing struts. Obviously, what's a Cub without wing struts? So it looks like we have probably a carbon spar and then our struts. We have a piece of trim plastic. We have our rudder, or vertical stabilizer assembly. One of the things that I noticed on this are these are all foam hinges. So again, if you want them to last a little bit longer, if it's a more aggressive model, a little bit of that Blendaderm hinge tape creased in there before you start flying it, which is probably what I'll do to this, just to make it last a little longer and keep it nice and durable. Fuselage has some nice clevises to it. They look a little bit heavier duty. Fuselage has a nice finish to it. Inside you can see that GPS module, the receiver underneath, and the satellites in there as well. The underbody is where the battery goes into, so you just nice little set screw there to turn that, a little latch assembly, and got a nice spot for the battery, some Velcro and a strapping already in there. Looks like we got an EC3 for a connector, and what's this one? Oh, an extension for the bind plug, which is nice, and it did come with a bind plug too, so the bind plug is there. Got a bag of hardware, so it looks like this thing's not a 2-minute put together, but it probably most of it is the landing gear fairings and stuff in there. Got a bunch of different screws and some collars. Bags are pretty well labeled, so I'm assuming in the instructions they'll give you all that. We have some double-sided tape. We'll see what that's for. And then Obviously the wing panels, one of the neat features for this one is they do have an optional flap. They are not set up to have flaps. I would assume that servo is going to go inside the fuselage if that's what you wanted, but I've seen this thing fly and really having flaps in it isn't really needed. And again, the ailerons are pretty big on this thing, and they are the foam hinges, so we'll probably again Blendoderm tape in there. But otherwise the finish is nice, the paint is nice, the Cub yellow is gonna be easy to see. Decals are pretty well put on, a couple small bubbles, no big deal. But the foam has a fairly decent texture to it. But as a beginner, as a first plane for somebody, it's going to get dented, dinged around and everything else. But still, very nice model for the price point here. But let's go ahead and break this book open. And let's start firing this bad boy together and see how it turns out. Quick tip for you guys, we're gonna have to install these vortice fences on the leading edge of the wing here with double-sided tape. That's what those strips were for. You double-side these vortice fences there. If you stick to paint, all it's going to eventually do is pull itself off. So what I'm going to do is just simply take some Scotch tape, and we are going to work it down into that painted crevice. Try not to get the wing, like this. And you're going to pull it up. And you're going to do that until you have an ample amount of paint pulled up from the inside. And the reason we do this is because you want adhesion for your stickers. So let's get to it. All right, so the build is finished on the Horizon Hobby Zone Carbon Cub. It took roughly, I'm going to say about 45 minutes to go through the book and assemble per the instructions. Everything was pretty simple and straightforward. I didn't find anything overly difficult except for maybe trying to get the stickers on the nose to be bubble free. Short of that, seems to be a pretty good, stable, easy build. I think any beginner would be able to follow simple directions and go through it and be able to set it up. The next thing that I'm going to work on off video is to set up and program the radio with all the different features for the auto land, the geofencing, the circling patterns, things like that. We're going to work on getting hinge tape put in the hinges, but overall the build's really good. They do give you some extra hardware here for the flaps. You can see the linkage on the inside, a couple extra screws and collars in case you lose something. And the extra landing gear that I was talking about, in the book they show you that it's a little bit hidden, but they're there for floats. So if you wanted to actually get a set of floats for this thing, you actually have the landing gear for it to fly this thing off of water. So the next time you guys see this is going to be when the wife is out flying it. Catch you soon. So when it comes to setting up the Carbon Cub at the field, you install the battery from the bottom and plug it in. You can tuck all the wiring out of the way. The receiver powers up the ESC as normal. You place the plane in the center of the runway. You'll see the tail start waggling, and we're going to hold the radio here. That sets the geofence in front of you, and we're going to be taking off here into the wind. As soon as it finds all the satellites for the GPS, it'll waggle to you, and I'm holding this there while it's doing it just to set the fence. This way it won't fly over your head in auto mode. So there, it's found the satellites. Now we're going to hold in the bind button. It's going to wiggle. We're going to set left. That knows the pattern. And we're going to go let the wife fly. So here's our newest pilot. She is flying the 1.3 meter X Cub. So this is literally after 20 seconds of just giving her some basic instructions, she is having at it. So never did I thought she would fly, but there it is, and she's doing a great job as a beginner on an X Cub. And we have our trusty companions right by her side. So we're going to take up the Carbon Cub. We're going to take off with this thing. And once this is up in the air, now this is on, has 3 flight modes to it: beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So on beginner mode, it really, the safe prevents you from over banking the plane. It prevents you from going too high, it prevents you from going too low aggressively. You could still, after a period of time, put it in the ground if you want to, but it takes much longer to do that. And then each flight mode you increase to intermediate or advanced, it takes away that banking limitation. So somebody that's trying to learn, they can't get over aggressive with it. And when they say that you get too relied on safe, this teaches the basic beginner function to somebody without them panicking, but they can quickly progress out of that safety zone, if you will, and start to advance the amount of movement. So now as we look down at the controller down here, should the pilot get nervous, they can just go ahead and tap that bind button, and I'll show you sticks off at this point. There. And let's re-zoom in on the plane. And this is the auto hold feature. So it will fly to safe altitude, and it will literally just keep circling for you until either you get the plane back under control or you get your wits about you. We will tap the button again when you're ready, and that takes the plane back in the pilot's hands. Now, should the pilot bring the plane over the top of our head, that geofence knows where we are and instantly throttle the plane up, and we'll take it back into the safe field location. It gives the waggle of the wings to let you know that you're back in control, and the pilot can resume flying.
and learning. And the last thing I want to show you guys is the auto land features. So right now the pilot's in control, the pilot gets nervous, oh my god, I don't know if I can land this thing. We're going to go down to that bind button and we're going to hold that in. 3 seconds. So in the auto land function, now that plane grabs control, it'll make a circle for you and it will bring it in and land it. It may not be the world's best landing, but what will happen is at least the plane will come down in one piece. I have noticed the plane bumps a little bit at times, but for the most part the plane comes back down on the ground in its designated location, and then the pilot's good. So great trainer plane. Carbon Cub definitely gets a thumbs up recommendation from me. They're kind of hard to find right now, but you can get the Apprentice and install the GPS module in it. So this is what the wife is learning on. We've taught a couple other kids at our local flying event how to learn on this plane. And literally, as I've shown you, 1 to 2 batteries, the pilot's in control by themselves with you doing nothing more than hitting the bind button if needed. So peace out, guys. Thanks so much for joining me.
Alright guys, thanks again for joining me. I'm Brendan here at Just Plain Crazy. Again, if you like it, subscribe, comment down below. If you have any questions, I try and reply to all of those, both good and bad. Hey, you know, it's just the way it goes. But anyway, if you like the content, make sure you click that bell notification, select all so you get made aware of all the content that came out. I appreciate you joining me for the review of the Hobby Zone Horizon Hobby Carbon Cub. Kind of hard to find. Fantastic plane to help teach beginners, as you got to see some of the footage teaching my wife and actually a couple other young pilots that are flying this weekend. Anyway guys, get out there, get to training people, continue to grow our hobby, and have a great day. Peace out.